Good morning, everyone. Hi. I'm Nico. I'm from Vienna, Austria, so my native language is German. So it's not that far. It's like one and a half hours of flight, right? I'm extremely glad to be here with you today. It's I think my sixth Bitcoin conference this year, and it will be my last because my wife already told me that she is going to murder me if I go to one more. So I'm informed about that, so I'm going to enjoy every minute. You can really count on this. I'm really glad to be here, and I'm doing something today that I haven't done before. It's an idea that I have had in my head, and it's a very simple but a very powerful idea. I'm going to talk about Bitcoin, the social network. So my background is in journalism. I've been writing about money, writing about, does this work? Here we go. I've been writing about money, gold, monetary economics for about 15 years. I have known about the problems within the fiat money system. I can tell you many things about the gold standard and Nixon and inflation and the Cantillon effect and everything else, but I'm not going to do that today. I'm going to talk about the people that I've met along the way in Bitcoin, and I want to give you a little peek into what's happening in the German-speaking Bitcoin world, because it's hard for us Europeans to know what's going on with our neighbors because of the damn language barrier, right? Because we need to have content in German, Bulgarian, French, Spanish, Italian, because that's what we want to listen to, right? And the problems are very local. So what do I mean when I say Bitcoin, the social network? It all starts with number go up technology. Let's not be kidding ourselves, right? That's how 99.9% of the people get into Bitcoin and crypto. You want to make some money, right? That's totally fine, especially in times of high inflation. I should have checked what the numbers are in Bulgaria. They are extremely high in Austria, and we are not used to this. So 10% inflation in Austria and Germany, that really is a problem. It all starts with number go up technology. You get into Bitcoin because you want to get rich. Totally fine, totally fine. But the problem is most people need at least 3 attempts. It was with me, I bought my first half Bitcoin as a journalist in 2013. I bought it at 750 euros a Bitcoin, and like 2 minutes afterwards, it crashed 90%. So I did what any self-respecting person would do. I just shut down the computer, hated myself, and didn't think about Bitcoin for 2 years. Then I tried selling it, but I didn't find my password, so I couldn't sell it. And then when it went back up again in 2016, I found my password again, and I made 80 euros profit, and I thought I was like George Soros, right? I didn't realize that afterwards, the bull market would come. And then my second attempt would be in 2017. I was a journalist, so I would get messages from my brother's friends who were 30 at the time. It's like, write about Ethereum, write about ICOs, write about blockchain, this, that, and that. And so for a couple of weeks, I would get into one blockchain after the other, logistics on the blockchain, bananas on the blockchain, this and that. And before I knew it, the bubble was bursting, and it was 2018, and I lost interest again, because that was my problem as a journalist. For a newspaper, you're only interested in what's hot right now. And when it gets cold, you have to move on to the next thing. So starting in 2022, I'm now freelance. I run a YouTube channel and a podcast in German. It's called Was Bitcoin bringt. And I also do an English newsletter, fixthemoney.substack.com. I love writing in English because, so this is my first tweet about Bitcoin. I didn't even know about this. A friend found it for me, and he also found out that Bitcoin was at $5 at that time. I did not buy Bitcoin at $5. It's okay. I got 2 likes. See? I should write those people and ask them how they're doing. So then 2022 comes along, or at least 2020 comes along, and this is the school of the pandemic, right? And you hear this all the time, Suddenly we're all in lockdown, we're watching YouTube, we're listening to podcasts, the world is coming to an end, and people are discovering Bitcoin and crypto. And 2 years later, we're living in a world that doesn't look very comfy to me. It really doesn't. We have inflation. We have censorship. We have censorship in Canada with the truckers. We have censorship on PayPal the other day. Whole countries are getting censored. I mean, this is not new, but it's getting ridiculous now. Oh no! I got censored. The clicker is now taken over. We have control, and what do I mean by control? This is one thing that I really worry about because I know about central banking. I know about the economists. So people always think that politicians are the most dangerous people in the world. I believe economists are the most dangerous people because they like to control everything down to the little itty-bitty things, right? And with central bank digital currencies, also a topic that could fill evenings, we're going to have huge problems. But this is, fortunately, it's down the line. Fortunately, Bitcoin came much earlier. Surveillance is the next problem. I don't have to tell Bulgarians about surveillance through the state, right? It's not a good idea, and it needs to be stopped as soon as possible, and we need to push back as hard as possible. Actually, the cypherpunks who provided the ethos for Satoshi Nakamoto, the ethos for Bitcoin, knew about this in the 80s and 90s. So this is not a new idea. It's just now it's coming to the forefront. But at some point, and this happens to most of the people I've met through the social network that is Bitcoin, because that's the story here, right? I meet people that I wouldn't have met otherwise. I talk to Bitcoiners from all around the world, almost on a daily basis, like on Zoom or Telegram or telephone. I feel like I'm a node within the network, right? And at some point, you reach a point of no return. You reach a point where Bitcoin just, becomes part of your life. And you enter a whole new world. And this is a world that's optimistic, which is interesting because right now everybody is super depressed. Everybody's like, oh, what am I going to do? I was supposed to go to university, but there's no jobs. And then there's the inflation and, and COVID is coming back. And, I don't have to tell you about this, right? If you consume the media, there is problems. But the Bitcoin, and then you enter a room of Bitcoiners and everybody is like, yeah, I'm going to build a company and I'm going to write a book and I'm going to do this and that and everything's optimistic. So what is a Bitcoiner? I don't want to tell you what a Bitcoin is supposed to be, but these are some of the traits that I see with people in Bitcoin, right? I see that they are honest people most of the time. And all of this comes back to, well, I'll tell you afterwards. So they are honest. They are extremely helpful. Up to a point where in the German-speaking Bitcoin community, there's like a fight going on between those who say, no, you have to do everything for free. It's open source. You have to work for free. And the others are saying, yeah, but we need, I'm building a company here, so I should be making some money, right? But they are extremely helpful. They're very open-minded to all kinds of ideas because, yes, this is a new idea, so it will come from the fringes. So you will have lunatics, absolutely. There will be lunatics from all around the world adopting Bitcoin for their own reasons. This is a technology, people. This is not a philosophy. Yes, it has all those parts, but in the end, it's a technology, it's a money, so people will use it for whatever they think is necessary. They're interested in new things, they've just discovered this whole new world, so they think that the possibilities are endless, Bitcoiners. Innovative, they come up with new ideas all the time, and of course entrepreneurial. This is what I see really everywhere. It's like as soon as you get on Bitcoin, you start thinking about what can I do? Maybe I can do a podcast. Maybe I can do an exchange. Maybe I can do a technology company. Not everybody. Because if everybody is an entrepreneur, there's no employees anymore. So that's a problem. But in general, people are extremely entrepreneurial. And they are optimistic, like I said. And I consider this the effect of being on an honest money standard. You can call it a Bitcoin standard. It's an honest money standard. What do I mean by this is we all know about Bitcoin. We know that there's 21 million. We know how it comes into the world. We know that there is energy to be expended to produce a Bitcoin. So if I own one Bitcoin, I know nobody can just press a button and create a new one, right? And this gives me the freedom to plan into the future. It's something that, quote unquote, and it's not there is no conspiracy. It's basically incentives, right? The system right now is set up in a way where inflation and basically stealing from people is the only way to keep it going. This is how it's working. This is how it's going. And the Bitcoiners are completely turning this on its head. And this is why you see so many things. I see people discussing about, I'm doing a Bitcoin-only show, but it sounds so stupid because it's not only about Bitcoin. It's about all the things. There is art, and there is companies, and there is music, and there is it completely changes your perspective. And if it changes your perspective, you need to rethink basically everything in your life. I found this tweet yesterday. I thought it was great. It's only in the Bitcoin community you hear a 20-year-old boy saying, I'm buying Bitcoin for my grandkids. Right? I mean, it's absolutely insane. Yeah? Until my wife told me that we're going to have kids, I didn't think about kids. Yeah? But 20-year-olds are now thinking about the next generation. Of course, and this is important, there are exceptions. There are mean cats in the world, and there are mean people in the world, and there are people who will exceptions, but there are mean people too. Not everybody who's a Bitcoiner is going to be like a perfect friend and person. And of course, there's also way too much political infighting, especially on Twitter. Is anybody on Twitter? Yeah. Yes. So you know what I'm talking about. You say one wrong thing, and you're like your weekend is in the shit. But that's what's going to happen. When Bitcoiners are also going to be disagreeable. There is going to be fights. The one thing you have to understand, in the end, it doesn't really matter. All your political opinions are basically coming from a world where politics rules everything. But in Bitcoin, economics and the reality are coming back. And when you read, for example, the book, The Sovereign Individual, that was written in the 90s, they talk a lot about how this whole politicization of everything is actually not the norm. And once you leave the big cities, and this is true for every country, once you leave the big cities and go to some restaurant in the country and talk to the farmers, you immediately understand what I mean. They don't care about the politics of the big people. They just they are living on the land. They're connected to what they're doing. They know what reality is and what is not. This is the idea of Bitcoin. Satoshi kissed the world, and now the world is going to be happy. I think it's positive. We need positivity. We need optimism. We don't need doom and gloom all the time. I was in Amsterdam 2 days ago, and there was almost 1,000 people, maybe even more. Yes, and they were all optimistic, and they were looking into the future. And then the newspaper wrote about 1,000 doomsayers are saying the world is going to come to an end, and we should all buy Bitcoin and go to the bunkers, because the media. I come from the media. This is a map of the Bitcoin nodes that we know about. Most are behind Tor, but this is what we know about. You see, Europe is in the middle of it. Of course it is. Germany has probably the most Bitcoin nodes there are, because Germans hate inflation and love engineering, and they also love, doing stuff that sticks it to the man, but not, out and about, because they are too scared to get one over the head. But having a Bitcoin node running in your basement, that's OPSEC enough, right? Then there is the Lightning Network. And there you can see the connections, right? You can see how we are connecting around the world. This is only just starting, like Plamen said, right? 1% of the people in the world. This is nothing. It's nothing. It's absolutely, we are at the, and it's so hard to know, because at 20,000 euros, it's of course, it feels very expensive. It feels like this is already over, right? But you have to remember, there have been people buying Bitcoin at $20 thinking they're too late, and that is just over, right? So no, if it's going to be a world monetary standard and a world standard of open source cooperation, of course we're at the beginning. We're right at the beginning. The establishment hasn't even begun to fight. They are starting to get nervous, but the fight hasn't even really begun. So let me tell you a little bit about this. So this is a map of the so-called 21 world. This is done by Gigi. Some of you might know Gigi. He also comes from Austria, but he does all his stuff in English. 21 or 21 in German has been like the core of the German Bitcoin community for about 3 years now. They started a community podcast, and it just exploded. Because they suddenly everybody was listening to them, and then they were making meetups, and now there is like this is forking, right? So there is like a 21 podcast in Italy. There's one in the Balkans. There's one in Turkey. You should check out the website. There's a whole thing. You should do one in Bulgarian. I don't know what 21 means in Bulgaria, but you should do this. And then you have, this is a map of Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, and all the meetups that are happening regularly right now. So this is important, because one of the main things about Bitcoin is, yes, there is Twitter, yes, there is online things, but as long as we need to get together in person, right? And people, I cut off like the northern German part, so there might even be one in Kiel. I'm sorry about that. But this is important to have like real things, like where real people get together, and it's working well. And there's new chapters, you know, springing up everywhere right now. And these people are meeting once a week, every 2 weeks, and you know, just talk about Bitcoin and other stuff, obviously. Here's a couple of pictures that I pulled from Twitter yesterday, from the meetups that they are publishing there. It's very creative on how they are keeping everybody anonymous, right? This is all the Bitcoin podcasts that I could find that are running right now in German. So here is the blue one, that's the best one, but the other ones are also okay, right? And it's like, this is a lot. I mean, there's so much going on that I can't even listen to them all. But when I started, there was like half of those, right? So then more came along. Of course, they will go away, and new ones will spring up. But what we are doing is everybody is, you know, covering something else. There's all this, like in the upper right corner, there's one that's only about energy, for example. We have rappers. Now, yes, I know what you mean. It could be super cringe, but I can tell you, I grew up with rap music. I grew up with hip hop, and they're actually really talented and really good. They're called pleb rap. They on stage they always use the mask because they don't want to be seen on the internet. But they are great. You should check them out. You won't most of you won't understand a thing, but it doesn't matter. You'll get the picture. But I mean, I don't know. The modern monetary theory guys don't have rappers. This is Innsbruck. This is in the Austrian Alps. 3 weeks ago, we had a conference with 800 people, Bitcoin only. This is actually me talking to Michael Saylor. I only put this up because it was the first picture I found. I'm not trying to shield myself here. But it was interesting, and I think Michael had a good time. It worked well. We had Michael and Seyfedin there on the screen, but what was actually more important was about 40 speakers only in German, from the German-speaking world, covering Bitcoin from every possible angle. And what we could see there, and this is important, is that this was open to like a whole new audience of people. Because the other events, the so-called Zitadelle, that came out of the 21 movement, also part of like the social network, but they are like very hardcore, you know, at the countryside, 200 people, you really have to be super into it. But this was open for people, you know, who were just interested to see what the whole Bitcoin thing was about. And everybody loved it. Innsbruck, 2023, it's going to happen again. If you can make it, go there. If you speak a bit of German, it's good, but you know, they all speak English anyway. And there will always be people who are hanging out outside having beers you can talk to and not listen to the talks. So what am I saying here? What am I trying to convey to you today? Bitcoin, the social network. My argument, and it might be cheesy, but today I'm rolling with it. We are all full nodes here. This is not so much about technology as it is about people. A digital world will only be interesting for other people if they can meet other people there. This is how the network effect works. It's not about making money. It's about, you know, I'm sorry, this sounds super cheesy, but yes, it is about creating a new and hopefully better world for us. It's up to us what happens next. And I honestly believe, when I look, because I talk to politicians, I talk to central bankers, I honestly believe they have no plan. And I honestly believe it's possible for us to at least have a say where we're going next. What if the real gains were the friends we made along the way? This is something that always comes to my head, and it's like the motto I'm trying to go with here, because for me it's not about making money or you know, taking down the evil. It's a bit about taking down the evil central banks, but it's about meeting people, building stuff with people, spending time with people, and yeah, just having a good time. And I hope you're going to have a good time today. This is it from me. Thank you very much.